person I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Beth. And Beth, come on up here. Beth helps writers make a best-selling book. So I saw your eyes perk up when she talked about coming back to write a best-selling book. So let's adjust it. So I have heard Beth speak many times. She's wonderful. And give her a big round of applause. Hi, everyone. So when I was a little kid, I wanted to be famous. That was one of my goals. Maybe I was going to be like dancing in the ballroom with Fred Astaire. Or maybe I was going to be a newscaster delivering the nightly news. That would be cool. Or actually, another one of my dreams was being a world-class surgeon. For some reason, that just fascinated me. And so fast forward many years later, 30-plus years, and I actually do stand up in front of rooms and teach and present. I've taught people how to speak English, like I can't do right now. I've lived overseas and taught foreigners. I've taught people how to write books and how to market their books. And I even taught people how to read Thoreau, people who didn't know anything about it. So I studied that. So I have a lot of experience presenting, but it wasn't always easy. And in fact, when I was first learning how to be a teacher, I had to stand up in a room and give a lesson. This was actually like the first week of training. It was a 4-week crash course. And I had to stand up in a room and teach, I think I was teaching verbs, to people who do not speak English hardly at all. And there I am standing up in front of them, and my body is shaking. And my face is red. In fact, it feels like my whole body is hot and red. I am so nervous. But I make it through that 30-minute lesson, and I teach. And, because I really want to be there. I really want to go through that. It really felt like going through fire. And I also really wanted to understand acting, because I'm a fiction writer, and I thought, gosh, if I could really get a handle on acting, I could kind of really get to know my characters really well from the inside out. So I took an acting class, which I was really freaked out about. But I'm like, again, I'm going to do this. I want to figure out how to do this. And the acting teacher gives me a role of playing this really sexy vixen. Now, I've been happily married for over 10 years, and now I had to play like this woman who goes after every man and who had no morals. So I had to really learn how to shed everything that I thought was true about me and become this character. And I did it. And Ezra was there, my husband's over there, he was there for the performance, and it was like, I really did it. I really brought it. And that was quite exciting. It's like, again, I crossed this amazing threshold, and I became this other person, and then I got to go back to being me, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I get what actors do now. I love it, and it helped me be a better writer. And I'm here tonight to cross another threshold with you guys, and take a risk, actually, right in front of you, probably turn beet red. That's what I do. And talk to you guys about something really personal to me, and that is actually my hands. I was born with hands that are different. I have a normal thumb on my left hand and a normal ring finger and pinky on my right, and the other fingers are different. And you guys wouldn't notice, right? I'm so natural because I was born this way. And when I was a little kid, I'm sure I went through stuff, kids tease other kids, and people would ask me questions. And I remember this one time I was at a daycare. I was working at a daycare. And a little kid, probably like 3 or 4 years old, asked me a question. And you know how kids, they have no filters, right? And they said, "What's wrong with your hands?" And I said, "Oh, I was born that way. Just like you're born with brown hair and brown eyes. I have blonde hair and blue eyes. And I came out of my mommy's tummy like this, just like you do." And that's I can handle that. Little kids, I love that. I love the open questions. And then there's the questions that I got when I was a little older from people who were kind of poking a little bit of fun at me, but they're also curious, but a little bit embarrassed. And they would say things like, "Does it hurt? Your hands hurt?" And I would say, "Does your arm hurt? Let me touch it," and I'd poke them. And of course it doesn't hurt. I was born this way. But there were some times where I did experience pain, and that was when I had hand surgeries. I had 5 corrective hand surgeries. So I feel really lucky. I've never broken a limb. I've never been rushed to the emergency room from any medical emergency, so I've had these 5 corrective hand surgeries, 2 on my right hand, 3 on my left, and I even had to learn how to write with the opposite hand when I was little. And I had these in grammar school and in middle school, and you can imagine, there I am, I'm already somebody who's a little bit different, because not only do I have hands that are different, but I don't really care. I mean, I walk around like a normal kid. So, you know, probably trying to be invisible, like we are when we're a little different, but also just going about my normal life. So I realized that I have a personality that just forges ahead, just goes forward. And I kind of felt limitless, even though I have this quote-unquote disability. But I found out when I was 29 that I actually did have a real limitation. I got repetitive stress injury. I'm sure some of you might have experienced that, where your arms, they just like stop working. So I was working so much on the computer, just doing my job, just keeping up with all the work. And I found out the hard way that I had real limits. And I couldn't even like pick up a piece of paper. And I'm a writer. I couldn't even write. This was a real eye-opening experience for me. And I mean, Ezra remembers, I was just devastated. I had to come face to face with my physical limits and really protect myself. And what I've learned, and I guess what I want to bring to you guys tonight, is something my father said to me actually many times growing up. And my father was born blind in one eye, so he really knows disability and limitations. Because when you don't have both eyes, your depth perception is actually limited. And he said to me, Beth, sometimes, you know, people have the disabilities on the outside, and sometimes they have them on the inside. But you know what? We're all the same. Thank you very much.
When I was talking to Beth about giving a story, she said, I'm really excited because it's a challenge. I'm nervous about doing something like this. But I want to tell a story because last month, Ezra told a story. So that motivated her, like, I can do this. If he can do this, I can do this. I said, that's great. Now, what out on the limb stories do you want to tell? And she said, well, she had all these different stories about traveling and going to Paris by herself and doing all this stuff. And I said, yeah. And he said, oh, that sounds great. And then it got kind of quiet. She said, well, I guess the scariest thing would be to talk in public about my hands. She says, I've never done that. And so here she is. She did it.